So earlier in this chapter, you learned about theoretical yield. And that was the thing that you got when you started with like a gram amount and when you converted it into product using something that kind of looked like this. And we talked about how it wasn't really realistic. You won't ever really get this number, but that we use it to tell how good another number is. That's what percent yield is about telling us. So we're going to look at percent yield, but theoretical yield is half of the battle or part of the information. So you will have to make sure that you have a theoretical yield, which is the product amount produced. It's not really what's produced, it's what math tells us. But of course, we all know that math isn't the same as everyday life, at least not in terms of doing reactions. So percent yield, this is a way that scientists measure not just how well a reaction works, but also if it is, and so if we think about reactions, this is big money, right? It also tells if it is financially and realistically feasible to continue with the reaction on a large scale. So if your percent yield, as a little note, were like 99% or even 90%, that's a pretty nice yield for most reactions. And so those kind of numbers are numbers that manufacturing companies like to see because it means that they won't lose as much of their reactant that they spent money buying to make the product. There's some other things that come into play here, though. Another thing that can come into play is if the reactant has like a lot of little side products made with it, then you have to clean it up. And sometimes cleanup, which is not measured with percent yield, sometimes the cleanup process can take so many steps that it's also not financially feasible to have a reaction work. So for the purposes of Gen Chem 1, we're using percent yield as a judge of that. As a little note, your grades are percent yield out of 100. The 100 is the perfect that like almost no one gets. Your grade, that's what actually really happens, is the actual amount. So this is like in a perfect world, someone might make a 100%, but really you make another number. Let's say you make a 96. Well, your actual grade out of 100%, which is your theoretical, gives you the percent yield. So you definitely want to identify numbers in a problem really clearly